In the mid-1960s, a young jumper from Medford High School, who later jumped for Oregon State University and went on to win the 1968 gold medal in the high jump at Mexico City, used an innovative style of jumping that became known as the Fosbury flop. Dick Fosbury's contribution to track and field, and in particular the high jump, is immeasurable. His style of jumping is used exclusively throughout the world today. To show you our program at Oregon to develop this style of jumping, John Gillespie.
There are two types of flop high jumpers, speed jumpers and power jumpers. The easiest way to tell the difference between the two is by looking at the last step. A speed jumper has a shorter, quicker last step, a power jumper a longer, slower one. Most females are speed jumpers. We believe that everybody should try to learn the speed style of jumping because it has the potential for the most improvement. We want the approach to look like a J. You start off running tall with your head steady, kind of a relaxed prance with very little extra movement. Smooth, consistent strides. Gradually accelerating at the start, and then the last 4 to 5 steps are around the hook of the J. We want to get the advantage of the centrifugal force. Generally, the faster the approach, the wider the approach is. Usually a jumper will be within 10 to 16 feet out from the bar and will take between 7 and 12 strides. You will need to experiment to find exactly how far out from the bar you need to be. We need to be on our heels the last 2 strides of the approach so we lower our center of mass. The keys to the approach are, 1, being able to consistently hit the takeoff spot, not ever bowing out on the approach in, and making sure that your last 2 steps are aimed over the bar rather than down the bar. The ideal takeoff spot is an arm's length from the high jump standard and towards the center of the curve. This is the best spot because the standard itself is a good reference point. It will allow the jumper to go over the bar at the lowest point, and it's the safest place as you will have the majority of the pit to land on. The final stride, or the plant stride, should be 6 to 12 inches shorter than the previous or the penultimate stride. The approach needs to be very precise so the athlete arrives at the same point in the same position with the same amount of speed every time. A much neglected part of the approach is the routine at the start. This ritual should be approximately the same regardless of the height of the bar. It is important to establish the athlete's concentration and focus, and yet because it is a routine, it should help relax the jumper. The goal of the takeoff is to apply as much force as possible in the shortest length of time. The body should have an inward lean at the plant, with the heel hitting the ground first, ahead of the knee and the body. The foot is pointed in line with the curve or towards the far standard. The athlete should have a low center of mass, but rising. At least one arm should be back, or both of them. The free leg should be pulling through fast, and at takeoff, the athlete should be tall with high arms and with a double arm block. The shoulders must be perpendicular with the bar at takeoff. We drive the knee up at takeoff, and we leave it up. The knee should point towards the standard and not around it towards the center of the approach area. We want this leg going in the direction of the jump, not away, because we do not need the knee for rotation. Over half of the takeoff force is created by this free leg. Leaving the knee up will also help the athlete rotate around and over the bar, so a good arch is not even needed. For the flight over the bar, the arms should be in line with the body. It gradually arches so the head and the feet are below the bar at the same time. Throwing the head back too soon or too much will cause the feet to curl under the bar and make it difficult to get them out of the way. Make sure you take a picture of your jumper in this position. You want to see that the arms are in line with the body and not a lot higher than the bar. And you want to make sure that the head and the feet are below the bar. After clearing the bar, the arms are extended towards the sky. Because of the equal and opposite reactions principle, this will raise the legs to help clear the bar. The approach is the most important part of the technique, because if you don't arrive at the correct spot, you cannot possibly have your optimum jump. We put our marks down by using our feet or stepping off the marks, rather than using a measuring tape. This is because we always have our feet available and you might not have a tape. But more importantly, we believe that you have to change your marks a little bit at every meet, depending on the circumstances, the weather, the condition of the runway, and you're more likely to move those if they were less precise at the start. Then you run one easy approach using flats to check your run-up. Run approaches with no jump to establish your rhythm. Approaches with a low scissors pop are necessary once or twice to make sure that the approach is the same with a jump at the end. Putting tape on the ground to mark each of the last steps is very useful for beginners to establish the speed of the approach and to quicken the last few strides. Timing approaches is essential for two reasons. First, practice approaches should be the same as the competitive approach, and secondly, the approach should be the same whether the bar is at 5 feet, 6 feet, or 7 feet. High jump strides on the track, or running 50 to 100 meters around a curve, are good to develop speed and to develop your high jump stride. The boom and float is similar to the scissors, but you start the flop and then you just don't arch. The bar should be at a medium height. One-step jumping allows you to concentrate on your takeoff and the clearance of the bar. This is also the least stressful of all of the various jumping drills. If testing, make sure that the foot of the off leg does not come off the ground. Three-step jumping is a good distance for some speed, but still a relatively unstressful takeoff. Five-step jumping is the best practice distance. You can still simulate your quick takeoff, but you're also able to jump near or within about 3 inches of your PR. Scissors jumping is only for experienced jumpers, as it is very close to the bad habit of not having a good layout position over the bar. However, it is a great takeoff drill. It is important to have a bent lead leg so you simulate the real flop takeoff. A common fault of young jumpers is not getting the knee high at takeoff. The knee up drill is designed to work on this. In this drill, the coach puts the bar at a height about a foot under the jumper's best. Then the coach stands in the middle of the high jump apron and judges whether the athlete's knee gets higher than the bar. If successful, the bar is moved up. If not, the jumper gets 2 more attempts, and then the bar is moved up. A good jumper should be able to get their knee close to the height that they are able to clear. The knee up and over always follows the knee up drill. The bar needs to be low and only a couple of attempts are necessary. The jumper starts like a high knee but then continues over the bar with the knee still up. Since this is not a good layout position, you don't want the bar too high so the jumper doesn't have to worry about arching over it or trying to clear it. The high jump takeoff next to the high jump pit allows you to work on takeoff with much less stress than landing on the ground, and it helps you develop an upright position for takeoff. Using a weighted belt helps develop strength in the high jump takeoff position. More importantly, it demonstrates to the jumper the importance of just a little flexion in the takeoff leg. The jumper will find they cannot jump unless they hit that takeoff position just right. The two-legged backwards drill is good for working on your arch over the bar or a pre-practice or meet warm-up drill. You approach the bar almost straight with the quick last two steps and then a two-footed takeoff. This is also better than the standing two-legged backwards, as you can jump a lot higher with the moving takeoff, and it's safer for you because you land farther back in the pit. Ramp or box jumping is excellent for getting a little extra practice at high heights. You use a low wooden box, about 8 inches high and about 2 feet square, or you can construct a small ramp. Speed jumpers need to make sure that they push off with their off leg for a last quick step up onto the box, so they reduce the angle of their takeoff leg so they can get off that box really quickly. High jumping over a high jump pit, either off the ground or from a box, teaches the jumper to have a wide arch and lots of clearance on both sides of the bar instead of just a quick arch to try to sneak over this small 1-inch bar. The PR attempt drill is very important because a high jumper must be fearless and willing to try a height knowing that they may not make it. The high jump and the pole vault are the only two events that always end in failure. So we take about 3 or 4 attempts at warm-up heights, and whether the bar was cleared or not, we raise the bar to a height over the athlete's best. They must make a good attempt at the bar without chickening out. The sit and jump drill duplicates the situation at a big meet. You have the athlete jump and then sit down and take a break for 5 or 10 minutes and then jump again, because rarely in practice do you simulate this kind of situation. There are 5 reasons we should practice with our off leg. The first is that it may be our better leg. Many left-footed jumpers just got at the end of the line in junior high school and jumped from that side because everybody else was. Secondly, with the principle of transference, your body doesn't really know whether it took off of the left or the right leg when it's arching over the bar. So you can practice that arch without stressing your actual takeoff leg. Thirdly, we might want to increase the strength of that other leg. Most high jumpers have a cannon and a noodle, and we ought to try to strengthen that noodle a little bit. In case of injury, the jumper might be able to use that other leg in an emergency competition. But the most important reason is because the best way to learn an event is to coach it. And rather than coach somebody else, the athlete has to coach themselves to jump off that other leg. The circle drill is an excellent drill for beginners, but still valuable for experienced jumpers to remind them about the use of centrifugal force. Cones are not needed as long as the jumper runs in a fairly tight circle. Notice the tremendous amount of bar speed that is achieved. Continuous circle takeoffs are good to practice your takeoff action on a curve. The Raz drill is a lot of fun and very valuable. Too many high jumpers are prima donnas. They feel that everything needs to be just right and there can't be any noise or any distractions around them. We want our jumpers to concentrate and to block out any distractions. This scene from our track camp shows the other high jumpers talking, moving, waving, and generally distracting the other jumper, who must jump at a bar 8 inches under their PR. The only rule for the hecklers is that they cannot touch the jumper. This is a lot of fun for everybody and develops tough jumpers. Backwards running is especially good for high jumpers since their takeoff is backwards. The high jump 400 is a good early season conditioner. You stride 100 meters on the curve and then run backwards 100 meters. Then stride 100 meters on the curve and then finish with a backwards 100 meters. The total running is 400 meters, but it is far more specific to the high jump. The 2-step hurdle drill works on quickness for the last 2 steps at takeoff. The rhythm is quick, quick, float. The front leg should drive up like the takeoff, while the back leg should stay back, making a good split between the knees. The hopping high jump is a very stressful plyometric exercise for high jumpers. With practice, you'll be surprised at how high you can jump. We've jumped up to 6 feet before. Just like a real high jump, the approach is vital. The straddle or belly roll style of high jumping was the dominant style in the world until 1968, when Dick Fosbury introduced the Fosbury flop. It is still a very efficient form of high jumping. It just takes a lot more time to practice. We suggest you try this for fun. Although we have shown a lot of different drills for the high jump, the best drill is a full approach jump. This is the only way to simulate a jump in a meet. Stadium seats or stairs are an excellent leg conditioner. This is hopping up the seats. Notice the athlete's coordinated arm drive. Hopping single seats can be done by all jumpers and will definitely stress the legs. Running single seats is your basic leg strength conditioner. We run up the stairs and then walk down them. Double seats or running every other seat is tougher but more valuable, as the split between the legs is more natural. Combinations of hopping, bounding, or hop-stepping up the stadium is very valuable for all jumpers. A very experienced jumper can hop-step doubles up the stadium. Walking up doubles on the stadium is a lot like a walking squat. Single stairs works on leg quickness as well as the strength of going up the stadium. This is actually a fast leg drill going up the stadium. Double leg hopping is an excellent variation for your stadium drills. Hill running is slightly better for sprinter jumpers than stadium seats. You can run any interval up the hill, but in general, longer intervals are at the start of the year, with short intervals in the middle of the season, and no hills at all at the end. This is a fast, short run for the middle of the season. To personalize the hills for jumpers, we hop, bound, or hop step up the hill. Backwards running really stresses the quadriceps, which are the primary jumping muscles. Plyometrics is any kind of hopping, bounding, or jumping. Using boxes is a special kind of plyometrics called depth jumping. With plyometrics or depth jumping, the advantage is not with the jump, but with the muscle contracting when the athlete lands on the ground and then responds with another jump. You can jump up on the box or over it. You can use any combination of hops or bounds, and you can use any size of box. This box is about 18 inches. It is important to maintain good technique with this box jumping. You need a flat-footed or heel landing, you need an upright body position, and you need a good coordinated arm drive. Low box jumping is better for younger athletes and is still a very valuable depth jumping exercise. We call this Pedro's box, named after a decathlete from Brazil. It's surprisingly easy to make and an excellent drill for strengthening your ankles in a lot of different positions. Just 30 seconds of hopping a couple of times a week on Pedro's box should keep your athlete's ankles injury-free. The walking squat shuffle run is actually a series of 4 exercises. The walking squat is designed to strengthen the gluteal muscles. Here we demonstrate that with a sandbag. The shuffle run is demonstrated with hips slightly lower, like the jumping position prior to takeoff. We turn and run backwards to strengthen the quadricep or jumping muscles of the legs. And finally, we skip to put some quickness in the exercise. The walking squat shuffle run can also be done with a weight. Notice we are holding it away from the body to gain arm strength in the jumping position. More experienced jumpers may want to use a barbell for the walking squat shuffle run. This allows them to use more weight. An excellent weight training exercise for jumpers is the step-up. Here we demonstrate the step-up onto a high box with a barbell. One-legged squats are essential for jumpers because track is a one-legged activity. These should be done after any two-legged exercises like regular squats. The one arm exercise that we are demonstrating here is the upright row. Notice how similar the arm position is in the exercise to the arm position in all of the jumping events. Flexibility and stretching are very important to the high jumper. The heel walk is an excellent shin splint preventer. The ankle and the foot have a lot of torque during takeoff and must be stretched. The high jump is one of the toughest events on the back and the shoulders because of the torque in takeoff, as well as the landing. The neck and shoulders are more important than you might think. Floppers do not land on their back, but should actually land high up on their shoulders. Workouts should be based on a hard-easy system, like the Oregon Distance Program. A hard workout day is a jumping day, an easy workout day is a running day. The jog gets the muscles warm so you can stretch farther. Then the accelerations are each a little faster with you concentrating on your running form. The group warm-up is an active warm-up that is an alternative to the normal warm-up. You can either have a leader demonstrating for a large group, or it can be performed by yourself. The cool down is after practice. Jog 1 lap and stretch to increase your range of motion, rather than the stretching before practice that is for injury prevention. We test the high jump